I'm doing a lot more videos like on my public page versus my group, and I'll tell you why. Because I do have trolls in the group that are downloading the videos and posting them like in public sites, which is perfectly fine because the information is getting out. So I don't see a need to just speak to my group and the trolls. I might as well speak to everybody on my Facebook and my 6,000 followers plus, because why should only a few people get the benefit of this information when everybody can get the benefit of this information? And so even though I know that even the stuff I post in the group are going to be posted everywhere else, it's perfectly fine. Okay. So trauma, see, here's the thing. What brought this up is because I read an article from Cleveland 19, and I don't say it's funny, but they're taking on these sort of like the Onion-esque type headlines. And this headline was about Marcia Cross or whatever. She played in the Desperate Housewives and then some other soap opera as well. She wanted to take away the stigma around anal cancer. And so she was talking about how her anal cancer has to do with HPV. And let me read that. I should probably have brought that up. But and I was talking about, and we talked about cancer before and what precipitates cancer, what gives and lays the groundwork for cancer. A lot of it, obviously, I mean, I made the correlation that Candida is the crux and the foundation of cancer. And it is in a lot of ways, because when you let your Candida out of control and you're feeding your Candida all this sugar and sugar substitutes and heavy metals because you're not releasing, the Candida then lowers your immune system and lowers your body's defenses. So that way exploitive viruses and parasites and funguses will then go and take over weaknesses in the body. Okay, so anyway, so I posted, or did I post it? No, I didn't. But I'm gonna find the Cleveland 19. I should have just reposted the article. Here we go, Cleveland 19, and they're the ones that interviewed me the other day, or a couple last year. So I've been kind of following them because I mean it's interesting. I don't know. It reminded me when I was interviewed by them. But yeah, let me find it. Okay. Watch be way at the bottom here. Here we go. The Desperate Housewives actress wants to get rid of the stigma around anal cancer. So actress Marcia Cross says her anal cancer is linked to her husband's throat cancer. And oh my God, 91 comments. So yeah, HPV related. We talked about HPV, how it's opportunistic around lung cancer, throat cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, all these different cancers. I mean, you look up the HPV cancer link, and it seems to be around the amorous, love play, recreational activities. All right, is that politically correct? There are certain words that I will not say because it may trigger something that would be potentially politically incorrect. So I have to do what people say, word solid, so I don't get people all riled up. All right. So it seems that trauma of the body. So when you get into an accident, when you get abused, when let's say you get raped, let's say you are in the porn industry, okay, you're taking trauma, whether voluntarily or you just happen to come upon trauma, whether it be a car accident or continuous abuse or any kind of accident. You take on trauma in whatever form and you're not dealing with it correctly, it is a weakness. When you have weaknesses in the bodies, there are things, nefarious things, that will exploit weaknesses. We have predators out there that exploit weaknesses in humanity. The whole child trafficking, they're exploiting the weakness of this human because they're young, okay? When you have weaknesses in your body, and let's say you have generational mutations, let's say breast cancer is prevalent in your family history, that's a weakness in your body that could potentially come to surface if you don't proactively take care of it before it becomes a problem. Why some people are sterile, and there is no reason why they should be sterile, could potentially be weaknesses in the different areas of their body based upon who knows what. We could say that, oh yeah, their history, their family history, what's being passed down, trauma to specific areas of the body based upon who knows what. It could have happened in your lifetime where you've had trauma down there, and the body now is saying, okay, it's a weakness, it can't sustain life. Or some people have died from cervical cancer. Okay? So when your body continuously takes on trauma and you're not repairing the damage on a continuous basis, that's a weakness that viruses and other things will then exploit. Funguses and viruses are linked to cancer. What do viruses do? They exploit weakness in your body. They go and upload corrupt information to then the central processing unit of your DNA, and then that's when the mutations happen. Okay? So trauma, whether, and some people will be mentally abused, maybe as children, physically abused as children. Some people will be in domestic violence relationships and mentally and physically abused, and they don't deal with that abuse correctly, and they turn to drugs, they turn to seedier things in life, and it contributes to the overall degradation. And then this is where people then go down a very horrible path, and then cancer, disease, and chronic illness will also be in their future. Hatred, demonization, bullying, oh gosh, anything that goes and tries to capitalize on somebody, what they think is somebody's weakness, is an opportunistic type of nefarious entity that is trying to gain strength by taking over somebody else's life, or some other, like trying to be parasitic off a host. And you, as a human who may now finally understand what is the cause of your disease, your cancer, disease, and chronic illness, is all of the trauma that you may have not experienced but have been passed down to you from your predecessors. You have not dealt with it. You have not fixed the mutation. And so viruses and other things are exploiting that weakness. This is the underlying cause of your cancer, disease, and chronic illness, is trauma left unchecked. And then there are predatory types of entities, whether it's a human, or it's a virus, or it's a fungus, or it's a parasite, that will go and capitalize on your weaknesses. And this is why you must reinforce not only your immune system, but also your body to fix the weakness. If you don't fix the weaknesses in your body, it's only going to get worse. You will then trigger other things because weakness spreads. This is why cancer spreads, because you have not fixed that mutation. You have not strengthened your body, and it will go and envelop and take over other good tissue, but it's not really good tissue. It's still weak tissue because you haven't fixed your body's system, your central processing unit. So if you think taking all the different pills, powder, supplements, and milkshakes and whatever, which is fine, if you continue to do that and you're not reinforcing your body with the right elements, then you are exploiting that weakness and making it stronger. And not because in a lot of ways, you're helping the enemy when you're taking all the different things without all the different, remedies out there, without giving your body what it actually needs. Okay? So, when you're craving sugar, when you're craving all of these different types of remedies that people use because they think it's doing good, like kombuchas, because they think they're getting the lactobacillus or the probiotics. That sugar feeds the candida. That sugar feeds the weaknesses in your body. You still need sugar, but you already have an imbalance that you take on more sugar in your body. You're not helping matters. You're still helping the predators exploit your own weaknesses. So this is why it's very important to understand the thing with the J juice is that when you're taking in these electrolytes and these nutritive elements and probiotics, that eventually you're going to lose the sugar cravings because you're going to get your yeast at bay. Do you ever wonder why it is that you crave specific foods? Why it is that you eat 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, potentially? Or even if you don't, but yet you're still not shedding the weight or you're still not reversing your illnesses, there's some major mutations going on. Okay? So the trauma of the body being exploited, the weaknesses of your body being exploited by these predators, whether it's a fungus or it's a virus or a parasite, will then mess with all of the messages being sent to different parts of your body. And this is why you see anomalies. This is why you see growths. This is why you see your cancer, disease, and chronic illness, because you are not fixing the messages in your body. You're allowing a predator go in and upload messages that are messing with you. Okay? And so this whole thing with the anal cancer and the throat cancer, okay, when you're constantly doing things that are traumatic, because even amorous love play can be traumatic to parts of the body. Do you realize when you do amorous love play, it does create trauma to different parts of the body? You have to recover from that. People who are trafficked, people who are in the porn industry do not allow themselves to recover. And this is probably why some of them do trigger certain cancers down there. I don't know. You guys can Google, which porn stars have dealt with specific cancers. Maybe there is a pattern somewhere. I wish that we would be that organized to then share the data of what our lifestyle is and then what cancers have been contracted during that lifetime. And then we'd see a pattern emerge. Okay? Then we'd see a pattern emerge of a specific practice then results into specific cancers and opportunistic viruses. So there's nothing wrong with amorous love play. I don't want people to say there's something wrong with it, but you better know how to recover from that. You better know how to fix the mutation. You better know how to replenish your hormones so that way you're not left exposed to these exploitive predators, which are the viruses, the parasites, and pathogenic funguses. Because you cannot prevent pathogens and you can't prevent healing. Okay? But you could try to heal until you die. That's fine. And that's called chronic pain. When you're in chronic pain and you're not in the J juice, but you're in chronic pain, your body is trying to heal and you're not giving it what it needs. And it will try to heal and adapt to the mutations until you pass away. So there's a way to have it all. But you have to understand how to replenish your body's hormones and how to fix the mutations based upon your voluntary participation in it. Because if you're working out all the time, you're causing trauma to your body. Working out, torturing your body purposely is creating trauma to the body, and it creates weaknesses, which then they'll create cancer, disease, and chronic illness, unless you're actively regenerating those cells and fixing those mutations. If you're constantly in the porn industry, taking it in different places of your body, you're creating weaknesses, which then predatory funguses and viruses will exploit those weaknesses, and you will see cancer, disease, and chronic illness come to surface at some point in time, if not sooner. If you are getting tattoos constantly, you're getting piercings constantly, you're constantly mutating your body in some way, you are laying the groundwork because it's trauma to the body, trauma left unchecked. Okay? When you are in an abusive relationship, whether it's mental abuse, you have to either get rid of those triggers or you have to deal with that mental abuse head on, because that will cause cancer in some people who don't take and deal with that mental abuse. Any type of trauma lays the groundwork for cancer. Any type. Fasting is trauma. When you fast on a mutated body, you're creating trauma to the body. You're starving your body. It's traumatic. Any type of trauma. See, and the thing with the J juice is it doesn't create the trauma. It makes you deal with the mutations that are in your body, because pain is healing. And people are like, oh my God, pain is trauma. But you already initially took on that trauma way back when. Some of you don't even remember the mutations that you sustained because it wasn't you that did it. It was your predecessors. It was your parents. It was your grandparents. And you just inherited that weakness, that mutation. So now you got to take on and deal with the trauma of your predecessors, not even necessarily what happened to you in your lifetime. See, this is the whole past, present, and future triggers. Somebody last night said in the group that they have a pinched nerve that they had 20 years ago, and now it's coming to surface through the J juice. Yeah, you finally have to deal with that pinched nerve. It's not going to just disappear. You're not going to be like, not held accountable for dealing with that pinched nerve. That was a trauma that was sustained 20 years ago that now finally your body's able to deal with it because you gave it what it needs. Okay? So, instead of creating more trauma in your body, why don't you fix the mutations that you experienced the initial trauma, who knows when, and then when trauma comes to surface, like when trauma does happen in your life after you've healed, your body will be able to deal with it and fix the mutation without festering and laying, somewhere deep in the body waiting to come to surface. No, when you finally get your body well balanced and strong, whatever traumas you deal with today, currently, if you're well balanced, you'll be able to deal with very, very quickly, strategically, and expeditiously. And it won't be something that's going to be then festering, turning into cancer down the road. But you have to deal with the trauma that you have sustained from the past, present, and then even the future. Like, how do you deal with future trauma? Because it's still laying inside of you. People have been exposed to viruses, pathogens, bacteria that are in antibody form. It hasn't come to surface yet, but when somebody falls from an autoimmune disorder, the groundwork has already been laid and it's just coming to surface when all the conditions are right. Better you head it off now, proactively deal with it before it becomes an actual problem in the future. That's the past, present, and future triggers that J Juice seems to be dealing with. I've dealt with it, and how I came to figure this out is because I knew that autoimmune disorders don't just happen. The groundwork has already been laid way back when, okay? And so I knew that when I was dealing with specific pains in my body, which I didn't even understand, like, why did my hands hurt? I remember during the healing process, my hands hurt, my ankle hurt. I was feeling really emotional, like the PTSD from just some major traumatic experience in my life, because I've had some pretty traumatic experiences in my life dealing with different things. And those came to surface, and I couldn't figure out where the hell they came from. And then I realized that I'm going through time in my body dealing with past traumas. When I had, when I was at one of my first jobs in the office back in like 2001, okay? I was in I was not in an ergonomically sound type of office setup. So I was doing some major continuous mouse work on an Excel spreadsheet, just doing data entry. And I had pains in my hand. And so that's how I'm so ambidextrous with the mouse, because I had to use my other hand because my other hand was hurting. And so I had pain 2 years ago in the beginning in my hands. I thought it was like me being on the phone too much, because I was like, in the group, the 66,000 group, just answering everybody's crazy ass questions and messages and troll stuff. And it was just a continuous on my phone. So I'm thinking like, oh my God, I'm getting carpal tunnel from being on my phone. But no, it was a past trauma of an injury. And it wasn't totally carpal tunnel, but I did wear a brace. I did go through an occupational therapist, and they gave me a little brace. They told me how to sit ergonomically, got me a new chair, all that stuff. And then I got fired from the job because they're like, oh my God, she's like, a liability, right? So, but yeah, I had to deal with, my hands were hurting for about a day. The yeast infections I used to, get when I was 19 came to surface. Okay, every single weakness I've ever had to deal with with different traumas in the past came to surface. So if you don't deal with the trauma back when it started in the right way, it's going to come back and haunt you. Now, it came back in the form of healing during the J Juice protocol, but if I didn't do J Juice protocol, my exposure to different STDs out there, I'm sure, would have came into fruition into cancer, because HPV is rampant. That's the human papilloma virus. This virus is transmitted sexually, And everybody out there most likely has been exposed to HPV, and it sits and it waits. And if you don't deal with it head on, it could potentially, based upon your lifestyle, turn into a cancer in specific parts of your body. And that's what the whole virus is linked to cancer. And then you're seeing now people talking about the virus cancer link, about HPV, and you're seeing the vaccines for it because they know this virus is rampant and they're trying to head it off and give you some layer of protection. But it's still that balancing act. Too many of these viruses will turn into cancer, especially if you have weaknesses in your body. And this is what the anti-vax group has been, propagating, which I understand, because people have weaknesses, but you're still going to be exposed. Okay? It may not be like kids may not be exposed to HPV sexually, but it's still like you can get it through kissing because there is canker sores, herpes. When you kiss a baby, and let's say you have open sores on your mouth and you kiss a baby, they're going to get it. When you vaginally have a child and you have HPV, your child is going to get it. It's out there. You can't prevent pathogens. So this is the reason why behind the vaccine industry. But when you do get exposure to a pathogen or a virus, even in its weakened version, yes, you're potentially now laying the groundwork for cancer if this person is already weak to begin with. And that's, what are you going to do? No matter what, you're screwed. So you better get your body well balanced. You better get your immune system and your body reinforced. So that way you can be exposed to anything and not be afraid that you're going to contract cancer. Okay? But trauma. So just remember all the trauma, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a fight, either a bar fight, whether it's falling off a motorcycle, a car accident, plane crash, people bullying you, that's a trauma. What else is a trauma? Ears piercings, tattoos, circumcision, clitorectomies. What else? Oh yeah, operations. When you're going under the knife, root canals, every single medical therapy. It's a trauma to the body. Local and deep anesthesia. Anything that deals with your specific conditions through the medical system is a type of trauma. Dealing with imbalanced people is a type of trauma. Watching movies that are violent, passing along very violent articles, showing violence against animals and children and humans is a trauma. Trauma leads to cancer if it's not well balanced and taken care of and dealt with. And this is why I've unfollowed people who are activists when it comes to animal cruelty. This is why I've unfollowed people who are activists in the politics that are showing just dead bodies everywhere, because that's a trauma to the brain. And so what we're doing to our friends is creating and laying the groundwork for potential cancer, because people have a morbid fascination with violence. And that does lay the groundwork for trauma and then cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Anytime you concentrate on violence or the seedier side of life, you're contributing to cancer unless you know how to fix those traumatic mutations. Even just like I've seen some articles, I don't even want to see it. I'm like, oh my God. And so my defense system goes up and I like look away and then I block or I unfollow, and it doesn't get deeper. Like I don't let that article become deeper and become a part of me and then create more trauma. So you have to realize, those of you who are still focusing on the traumatic end of our society, you're still laying the groundwork for cancer, disease, and chronic illness, as well as to your friends and family. So be careful what you focus on, because this is what potentially could come to fruition if left unchecked. So trauma isn't just physical, it's also mental trauma, spiritual trauma, which is hormonal. Okay? So this is why J Juice is so revolutionary, because now you're going to have to deal with the trauma from the past, present, and also future. And then you're going to start finding ways to get away from the seedier side of things in life. You're going to step away from the sensationalism of violence. People are going to do violent things. As long as you and yours are protected from those people, people will have to figure out for themselves. If you see something, say something. But other than that, focusing so much on the seedier side of things in life is a traumatic thing, and it does lay groundwork for things that maybe you don't want to deal with down the road. And believe me, when you do J-Juice, you're not going to want to entertain that stuff. Shirley, thanks. I appreciate that. But yeah, when you're on J-Juice, you're not going to be entertaining the seedier stuff. You're not going to be doing the MK Ultra. You're not going to be showing all how the fear. You're not going to be talking about child trafficking or how somebody killed this or somebody killed that or all of this stuff. If you see something, you say something, but you're not going to focus on it and traumatize your friends and family, because you have respect for yourself and for your audience, and you don't want to traumatize yourself or your audience. And that goes for bullying too. When you bully people, you are trying to create trauma on yourself as well as the other person. Okay? Those people are laying the groundwork for their own cancer, disease, and chronic illness when they bully somebody else. Bullies have imbalances. They have issues. And you see the bullies all the time because they're the ones that go after and think they're the activists. This is why I got away from activism. Activism is a type of bullying. It truly is. People don't realize, they think, oh yeah, I'm an activist, I'm trying to like help humanity. Oh no, that's a disguised way of projecting the trauma that you've dealt with in your life. If somebody is doing something wrong, the law will come into play. If you think somebody is breaking the law, then you call the police on them and let the police figure it out. Okay? It's not up to anybody to be a vigilante and induce trauma on somebody else because that person has a weakness in their own system. So understand that trauma of the body and the body, the mind, and the spirit does lay the groundwork for potential cancer, disease, and chronic illness if not dealt with correctly. And most people out there do not deal with their trauma correctly. They do specific therapies. They go under more trauma by going under the knife. They take things out which induce more trauma. They lash out at people, inducing more trauma. They abuse other people, inducing more trauma. And you want to stay away from those people because they are going down a trajectory that you don't want to go down. So you have to protect yourself. Put yourself in a bubble. Venture out when you need to. But if you do venture out, make sure you have a layer of protection, that you're strong enough. If you're not strong enough to deal with the things that are out there, then don't play in those worlds. Thanks, Doreen. But I'm just watching myself and I see, and I'm making the connections. I look at, like, what Facebook gives me is so much data on making those connections. And so when we realize that, yeah, that viruses exploit the weak, and then cancer is basically viruses exploiting weak parts of your body, and then we're seeing different cancers that happen in different parts of the body, and then they're connected to amorous love play, correlation probably means causation in these instances. Doesn't mean it's for everybody, because not everybody practices these things and gets cervical cancer, but maybe they received the virus and they already have a weakness down there from generations ago. Okay? So it's not always that the person is practicing these practices that have cervical cancer or different cancers, or they're in the porn industry, and maybe it's just something that they inherited from their predecessors. So it's really not their fault, but they have to still deal with it. They have to take care of that issue. And then you see behaviors in people that are, that do exhibit specific characteristics. And then you wonder what's influencing them. It could be the generational mutations influencing a specific behavior. Okay, so just watch all your friends and family. Some of you know your friends and family history. You can now start making connections. You don't need to tell them what you're doing, but watch your friends and family. You will see the connections that I'm making. And it's going to give you the answer and confirm everything that I'm saying. Okay? So, it's just something for you to be aware of, so that way you keep your eyes open, you start looking for patterns. It's all about looking for patterns in our society and in your life and in your family and in your community. Patterns will emerge once you step back, stop reacting, and start observing and looking at yourself, looking at how your body's reacting, looking at your own history. Your own history on your cancer, disease, and chronic illness will give you so much data it will then get confirmed by your outside community. Look at yourself first, then look at your community. You will see the connections. And so when I finally stopped reacting and started chilling for a minute and started actually paying attention to my body and myself and my biochemistry and then my relationships, I started seeing patterns emerge, and then I'm seeing the patterns then confirm themselves just in the media. The media will tell you everything you need to know and confirm what you already know, but you just wanted more evidence. Okay? So understand, trauma lays the groundwork. All right. You guys have a good day. I got things to do. Hugs. Bye.